Lots of news coming out of the Baltimore Ravens camp. Lamar Jackson is quote unquote trying to play versus the Houston Texans. A lot more news to cover here on this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. But before we get into it, I want you guys to comment down below whether or not you think that it would be smart for the Ravens to trot out Lamar Jackson with that nagging hamstring injury. Would you rather him play these next two games, or would you rather him, the Ravens hold him out? Let me know down below in the comments. Again, this and so much more coming up on this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. Yes, yes, yes. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you may be tuning in, listening, or watching this. This is your host, Sutton Def from the Purple Rain Podcast, and you are listening to Quiet Storm Sports. A lot to get into today, guys. A lot to get into. Like I led the episode with, Lamar Jackson is quote unquote trying to play now. I mean, yesterday we heard that he was going to be out 2 to 3 weeks. Today we're hearing that he's quote unquote trying to play, and things are day to day. So, like I said before, we get into anything, let me know down below in the comment section. Scroll down, let me know. Do you think that he should play, or would you rather him sit and get a little bit more healthy? I mean, the Ravens are already 1-3, so there's not a whole lot of more room for error for this Ravens team. They're kind of running out of real estate when it comes to losses, right? So, I could see both sides. I could definitely see both sides. But again, man, welcome into this episode of the show. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel as well if you are new here. Let me see who we got here in the live chat. You guys know I got to bring up who's here in the live chat. We got JD13 says we here early today. Yes, sir. Chris M is in the house, says hello, Sutton, one of our members here. Thank you so much, Chris M, for coming out. Ashley Shelton in the house says good afternoon, Sutton and everyone. We also have Zach Shellick in here. We got Khalil Bowling. I see Point. I see Avery. Thank you guys so much for coming through. And as you guys trickle in, let me know. Sound off in the chat. Let me know you are here. We are streaming live on YouTube, as always. We also stream live on X as well. If you want to follow me on X at Sutton Def, you can follow me there, just like the little thing says over here somewhere. You can follow me at that tag at Sutton Def. I see Tila M in the house. Another one of our Rain Gang members is in the house. Thank you so much to our members again. Appreciate y'all for coming through. We also do stream on Kick as well. So if you do stream on Kick, if you do watch us there, shout out to you. Appreciate you for coming through. But okay, let's go ahead and hop right into it, guys. So today, some news came out of the castle, right? Actually, since the last time I went live and talked to you guys, there was news about Kenyon Green, the Ravens signing a new guard, to the practice squad. And then also Eric Kendricks came and visited. He was a linebacker, formerly a Dallas Cowboy. He came and visited the Ravens yesterday for a workout. Didn't really end up working out. We'll get into that as well. Like my guy Point says here, hit the like button. That is so important to the channel. If you want to help us grow here at the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel, we would greatly appreciate it if you hit that like button, and also subscribe if you're new again. So again, let's kick it off with this. Let's kick it off with the elephant in the room, right? Lamar Jackson, Ravens quarterback. That is what everybody's been holding their breath about across the NFL world all week. Not just Baltimore fans, but everybody's been kind of waiting up and seeing, is Lamar going to play on Sunday? That's the big thing. That's the talk of the town, right? So, like I said before, yesterday, it was announced that he was going to be out possibly 2 to 3 weeks. Now, today, we're hearing a little bit something, slightly different. And by the way, the report yesterday came from the Baltimore Sun, I believe, and Brian Wacker wrote that report, which makes what we're about to see now a tad bit more interesting, because Ian Rappaport had said this morning some very interesting words that kind of differ from what we heard yesterday. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
Dealing with a hamstring injury. My understanding is his status for this Sunday's game is in doubt. Now, he had some tests on his hamstring, obviously was not able to finish the game last week. I see it right there saying could miss 2 or 3 weeks. I'm not sure where that comes from. I would say it's more week to week now for Lamar Jackson. He's going to try to play this week. We'll see if he's able to go, but certainly a possibility that Cooper Rush could be the starter for the Baltimore Ravens. And then for the Thursday night game, Jackson dealing with a hamstring injury. My understanding is...
Yeah, so you heard it there. I mean, Ian Rappaport pretty much just kind of dispelled what we heard yesterday. I mean, this whole 2 to 3 weeks stuff that kind of had Ravens fans, I don't want to say spiraling, I don't want to say panicking, but kind of, I know I was here telling you guys yesterday. I think that, Lamar Jackson being out for a good 2 to 3 weeks. Of course, we have the Houston Texans, we have the LA Rams, and there's the bye week. I thought that it was the perfect opportunity for this Ravens team to kind of hit the reset button and refine or reestablish, whatever you want to call it, their identity because it's been missing very, very badly, especially on the defensive side of the football. So I was just thinking to myself, without Lamar playing, I think it does take a little bit of the pressure off of the entire team because it's like, hey, no Lamar. We're not even favorites to win against the Texans without Lamar Jackson playing, by the way. I think the Ravens went from being -9.5 favorites before the news about Lamar to now being +1.5 dogs. So it's it's one of those things. But let me see. I want to get into what you guys are saying here in the chat. Shout out to the stream bot. It says, don't forget to join the Rain Gang, like and subscribe. I know that's right. I know that's right. But Chase says, but I thought he quit. That's funny. That's funny. JD says it seems like there was a leak from a source about the 2 to 3 week time frame. But that's the thing though. They were saying that the people who, had that source were directly like related to, this Raven situation. Like they're basically right there next to Lamar Jackson and the team doctors, and whatever they're saying is what the Baltimore Sun was hearing. That's what we learned yesterday. But today, Ian Rappaport comes out and says, I don't know where they got that information. And we know Ian Rappaport is about as inside as an NFL insider gets. Him, guys like Adam Schefter and the like. So I don't really know who to trust. It's really hard on who to trust. John Harbaugh, he got up on the podium as of about maybe 30 minutes ago and basically said a bunch of coach speak, right? He basically said a bunch of things like, he's day to day. We're going to see those sort of things. So we'll have to see what happens on the injury report. I think that he'll probably show up doubtful for Sunday's game on today's injury report. I'm not sure about tomorrow, but of course, Lamar Jackson did not practice today. So, but if you ask me though, I think that it would be smarter. I err on the side of caution here because hamstrings can be a very nagging injury, right? We've seen it in the past with multiple players. You do not, especially with a quarterback who utilizes his legs the way that Lamar Jackson does, you don't want to play with that. You don't want to play with that at all. So I would err on the side of caution and hold him out the next 2 games. I think that the Ravens team, with the Derrick Henry rushing attack, which I expect to be in full effect, 100,000% full effect on Sunday, at least 20 to 25 carries for Derrick Henry, somewhere in that range. Don't be surprised if he gets that. I expect that to be part of the game plan. I expect to be, heavy play action, probably protecting Cooper Rush, not really trying to showcase his arm all that much. I think it's going to be a huge rushing attack. I mean, John Harbaugh even said himself, there's a possibility of Keaton Mitchell coming back in this one as well and being elevated. So I think the running attack is going to be huge. It's going to be big. But again, with a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, who tends to use his legs the way he does, you don't want to play with that hamstring. Leave him out 2 games. Let this team kind of reset itself, rebuild itself in these next 3 weeks, and then bring him back for week number 8 against the Chicago Bears. I think that's probably the best course of action right now for the Ravens. Do not rush him back. It's early in the season. As we all know about any process, it's not about how you start, guys, but it's about how you finish. How you finish. So I think that, honestly, I'm feeling pretty optimistic today. I'm feeling more optimistic today about this Ravens team than I did earlier this week. That's for sure. On Monday and Tuesday, I was very doom and gloom, but I'm here to tell you guys there is new hope for this Ravens team. Joanne says they better not let Lamar play. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they should. I don't think they should at all, especially against a Texans team who has a very solid defense, very good pass rush with Will Anderson Jr. and Daniil Hunter coming off those edges. Azeez Al-Shaair is a really good player as well, linebacker. So they've got some guys. They've got some dogs on that defense, even on the interior as well. So I would not really care to see a 50%, hobbled Lamar Jackson out there, playing quarterback for the Ravens. So Tila says, please save Lamar from himself. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he can't play. Don't play him. I'm right here on the record saying do not play Lamar Jackson in this game. 60 people watching live right now. Thank y'all so much for watching the show. Again, I am your host, Sutton Def. This is Quiet Storm Sports on the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. Make sure you like the video. Subscribe if you're watching me here on X. Make sure you give me a follow on X. I'd appreciate that. We go live here pretty much every day. So make sure you stay tuned for our live streams and all the other videos coming out on the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel, the TikTok, the Instagram. You can find us pretty much anywhere at the Purple Rain Podcast. Let me see. Joanne says, I still play basketball, and you can think your hamstring is okay in one wrong turn and you're done for 5 weeks. Yeah, it's something that can go from bad to worse really quickly, right? Especially if you aggravate it doing something you're not supposed to do physically. And yeah, definitely keep them out. Chris says 60 people say no with you. Yeah, I think we're all on the same accord here. Let me see. That damn Dub says, if we can't beat the Texans, we don't deserve to be held to any high regard. Their offense is so trash, so it's a wash versus our defense. They have a pretty good front seven. We have to play keep away from them. Yeah, that's been kind of the toughest thing about this Ravens offense this season. They have not been able to control the ball, control possession at all, pretty much. It's either they're scoring quickly, they're either scoring really quickly, they're turning the football over, or they're going 3 and out. So gonna have to see, and I do think that the keep away game is going to be the priority in this one. I do think that the Ravens will prioritize, again, like I said before, to lead the show, running the football, to stay on the field. You have to win the time of possession battle these next 2 games if you want any shot, right? If you want any shot of beating the Texans or the Rams, you have to win the time of possession game. Again, as I've said all week, Ravens are 0-4 in the time of possession battle so far this season. So let me see what else. Dub also says our O-line is painfully bad, though. Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit about the O-line and kind of like the silver lining that popped up today. But, getting away from Lamar Jackson, I want to talk about the other injury news today coming out of Ravens camp. This is from Jeff Zuriback talking about who practiced and who didn't. So Kyle Van Noy, who was dealing with a hamstring himself, who was out for the last 2 weeks. So that kind of lets you know the timetable for these hamstring injuries. Kyle Van Noy, he practiced today, and Travis Jones also did practice today. Travis Jones was dealing with a knee, so that was good to hear. That front seven is definitely going to need those 2 guys. I never would have thought I'd be begging for a guy like Kyle Van Noy to come back. You guys know how I feel about Kyle Van Noy. Love him, love him. But, however, I just feel like he's not a big game edge rusher. He's not a big game outside linebacker for this Ravens team. It just doesn't really feel that way. Travis Jones, he's going to be a necessity. Gonna need him back, especially with Nnamdi Madubuike being out for the entirety of the season. Travis Jones is going to be imperative to, have on this roster, shoring up those trenches. Now, let's see who wasn't practicing. So not practicing today was obviously quarterback Lamar Jackson, fullback Pat Ricard with a calf, which is still is so weird to me that Pat Ricard, we've gotten no updates on whether or not he's ramping up to start practicing again or what. I mean, it is currently October 1st. By the way, happy Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Yeah, there's all month, guys. Happy Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But Pat Ricard hasn't practiced since August. That's an issue. That is alarming. That concerns me. Like I'm looking at some of these blocking schemes. The offensive line has not been good at run blocking. For the most part, they've not been good. I think our best run blocker is Tyler Linderbaum, who's actually adversely really bad at pass blocking, which kind of makes sense to me. But throughout the entire offensive line, they haven't been that good at run blocking. So getting Pat Ricard back into that lineup, as much as I love Zaire Mitchell-Payton, which I don't really love him. I mean, I just kind of tolerate him because the Ravens are loving him. But as much as he's been, playing well, Pat Ricard is like John Gruden likes to say, the straw that stirs the drink to this Ravens offense. And without him, it's been clear and obvious how this Ravens running game has struggled over the past couple of weeks. Specifically, Derrick Henry, averaging 5 yards per carry on the season. But if you scratch out that Bills game where he had those couple really big runs, he's only averaging about just over 3 yards a carry. And I think having Pat Ricard back would be really good and kind of bolstering that rushing attack, but we've gotten no news about it. Again, hasn't practiced since August. It's currently October. So concerning to say the least. I don't know why they wouldn't just put him on IR to start the season, because here we are in week 5. He would have been eligible to come back. Maybe they just didn't know the severity of the injury at the time, but either way, still concerning that he is not even being talked about right? But moving along here, Devontae Walker also did not practice, which is a weird one. I didn't remember him leaving the game with an injury, and it doesn't really have any designated injury here on Jefferson Rebeck's tweet. Ronnie Stanley did not practice with an ankle. Roquan Smith with a hamstring did not practice. Marlon Humphrey with a calf did not practice. And both those guys, Marlo and Roquan, are going to be out multiple weeks, by the way, in case you didn't know. Nate Wiggins with an elbow did not practice, and Chidobe Awuzie did not practice. So, I mean, to hear that, you know what I mean? Like literally pretty much every single starting DB for this Ravens team did not practice. That's concerning. That is probably the most concerning thing, the most alarming thing coming out of this report here. And you know, when asked today, John Harbaugh was asked about Nate Wiggins. He was like, "Yo, like, what's the severity of his injury? Like, is he going to be Like, is he going to play? What you know?" And Harbaugh just declined to comment. Harbaugh just said, "You know, how about we just find out tomorrow?" So I guess, you know, the Thursday before the game, when they tend to, you know, guys who are seriously hurt and really shouldn't be playing, they normally are designated out by the time the Thursday injury report comes out. So we'll have to see about that tomorrow. By the way, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the video as well, because tomorrow we're going to have a very special guest on episode 339 of the Purple Rain podcast. Me, Alex, and we'll have a very special guest. So make sure you guys tune into that one. It's going to be tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. You don't want to miss it. Trust me. We're going to get some really good insider information from our guest. But yeah, to hear this, I mean, again, Nate Wiggins wasn't really talked about. We'll see Nate Wiggins tomorrow, what his official designation will be. And then Chidobe Awuzie also not practicing as well. I mean, that is, what can you really say, man? I mean, you're going to see a lot of Keon Martin. You're going to see a lot of TJ Tampa. And I love those guys. But going into week 5, it wasn't necessarily on my bingo card, right, that we'd be down 3 of our top guys in the cornerback room. You know, thank God Kyle Hamilton, Malachi Starks are still, you know, healthy. But to hear that these corners aren't looking good, that's very concerning, especially considering that the pass rush itself has not looked good at all either. I mean, we've still got the team leaders in sacks is Tavius Robinson and Nnamdi Madubuike with 2 apiece. You know, so do with that what you will. But either way, pretty concerning stuff across the board when it comes to the injury report. We'll have to see what happens tomorrow. We got to see what happens tomorrow. But Torres says Awuzie is trash. Awuzie was playing good this season. Don't do that, Torres. Don't do that. I mean, I know he wasn't that good last week. I remember he got cooked by Xavier Worthy. You know, Xavier Worthy was wide open on that play too. He really cooked him. But he's actually been one of our better covering corners so far this season. Just saying. Chris M says Starks. Who is that? Is he new? Hadn't heard that name all year. I mean, yeah. Malachi Starks, I think that you know, him playing that deep safety position, you're only gonna see but so much of him, and it's honestly a good thing that we don't hear his name too much, because honestly, what teams are doing, they're going underneath on us. They're going underneath. They're not really throwing over the top of us all that often. I know it happened a couple times versus the Chiefs, most notably versus Marlon Humphrey early in that game. Again, guess who? Xavier Worthy burned him in his first game back. But for the most part, teams haven't really been throwing deep on us that crazy. And I think that that's another reason why you haven't really heard Malachi Starks' name too much. You heard Malachi Starks' name the most, I think, in that Detroit Lions game on Monday Night Football, when he was kind of in and around the box a lot, like making tackles at the goal line, and had, you know, tasked with the responsibility of like stopping a David Montgomery multiple times. And some of the times he did a good job. The other times you could tell it was just one of those weight room things, man. You know, but still, Malachi Starks hasn't really made any plays that jump off the screen on Sunday, so I can totally understand you thinking that he's been absent. Chris M says he can't tackle and he's never in the play. We're going to have to give him some time, just like we're going to have to give Mike Green some time, right? Going to have to give Mike Green some time, too, because you could say, like, oh, Mike Green never gets home. Mike Green's never in the play. But he's in and around certain plays. So I think we're just going to have to wait and see what some of these rookies, like, guys keep telling me, I want to get as anxious as you guys, trust me. But people keep telling me, like, yeah, like, you know, it's rookies. You can't expect anything after 3-4 games out of a rookie. You got to kind of give them some time to develop. So We'll give him that grace. We'll give him that grace. Um, but yeah, those were the Ravens that practiced, the ones that didn't practice. But most notably, there was one Raven who came back to practice today, right? And this was very exciting news, very encouraging news. This was probably like the new hope, honestly, for Ravens fans that I think that we were all looking for. Ravens' third round pick, offensive lineman out of LSU, Emery Jones, has returned to practice today. That, listen, that right there is absolutely humongous news for multiple reasons. Number one, third round pick. You expect a guy like that. He was dealing with a shoulder injury, by the way. That's why he hasn't been practicing since. But came back to practice today. But a third round pick, you expect to get some production out of this guy. And the good thing about him is he played 36 out of his 38 games at LSU at right tackle. However, as you already know, the Ravens have their right tackle, seemingly of the future, in Roger Rosengard, and he's been kind of up and down. But hey, the entire offensive line has. But the speculation is that Emery Jones is not going to be playing tackle for the Ravens. He's going to be playing offensive guard. And which side is going to be, left or right? I think most of us, right? And I see Ashley in the chat already saying it. He might take over that right guard position. He might take over that right guard position. Now, this is not to say that Andrew Voorhees at left guard has been way better than Daniel Faalele, because quite frankly, he has not. He has not. However, I do think that this is just a net positive all the way around, having a guy who has so much talent, right? So much raw talent. I believe he's 6'3", 325. He's got really good arm length, and he can actually move his feet, right? He can move his feet. So in like a zone scheme, on some of these, these plays that the Ravens like to run, where it requires the offensive lineman to be mobile, maybe to pull, things like that. These are things that he would be able to do, I think, a little bit better than a Daniel Faalele. Let's actually take a look at some of his tape here from college. This was actually his rookie season at LSU. So he's going up against the big boys here. He's going up against the big boys in his rookie season. He's number 50 on the right tackle spot. And some of the things you really like to see from Emery Jones here is at the point of attack, he is very, very strong. And like I said, he's got above average arm length, right? So when he punches, he can do it and keep guys kind of at a distance, and he still has that power, and he's able to get underneath them. One of the things that I have heard about him is that, he doesn't play at the right pad level, right? So he can't really, he's not as good as getting underneath guys, and guys can tend to get underneath him, and that's never really a good thing. If you're an offensive lineman, you want to be able to control a guy by getting your hands into his numbers. So and Torres says in the chat, he can't save us, but I like the pick. Again, man, the game of football is played from the inside out. You're going to need guys like this, guys who are picked in the first to third round, to step up on that offensive line or that defensive line, respectively, and make plays and really, really kind of shore up the trenches on both sides. Like, again, the Ravens have a lot of good pieces on offense and defense, but the way I look at it is this: like, if your trenches aren't secure, and if they aren't solid, it's like having a bad foundation on a building, right? You can have the prettiest windows, the prettiest staircases, fountain in the lobby and things like that. But if your foundation is shaky, all that can come crashing down. And that's exactly what we've been seeing under the regime of this current offensive line, for the most part, right? For the most part. Not to say that they're always bad, but they're very, very up and down. Very, very up and down. And with that being said, it does not hurt. It does not hurt at all. In fact, it's actually very, very good. And that's why the title of this video is like, is this the new hope for the Ravens? Because I think, and Harbaugh said he looks healthy. He looks good moving around, things like that. I think that the Ravens will really, really consider, moving around one of those guard spots if they continue to not perform on Sundays. So, again, guys, what you're looking at here is film from Emery Jones Jr. He is the right tackle. This was actually his freshman year at LSU, and he was going against guys like Will Anderson in this clip, who the Ravens play this week. So, yeah. Chef Spicy Rice says that's exactly what we have. Our secondary is struggling because the D-line is getting zero pressure, so the plays are extended 4 to 5 seconds. Yeah. And Lamar has no time to throw or run when the O-line crumbles. Yeah, it all starts down low. We saw this. We saw this. We saw this firsthand in the Super Bowl last year. Hell, we've seen it in pretty much every Super Bowl. You know, the guys down low, those are the guys who ultimately win you championships. It's not defense wins you championships. It's trenches wins you championships. It's both sides of the coin. Don't forget to join the Rain Gang, like the video, and subscribe if you are new here. Almost 100 people watching live. Thank y'all so much for coming out to this episode of Quiet Storm Sports on the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. I am your host, Sutton Def, breaking down some Emery Jones film here and just kind of talking about overall what this does for the team. Also, you know, as you guys know, didn't go live and talk about it yesterday, but Kenyon Green was signed by the Ravens to the practice squad, I believe. And again, I think that the Ravens doing their due diligence at that guard spot and kind of trying to make sure that they have viable options there at, you know, at guard and that interior O line, because obviously Linderbaum's not going anywhere. That's good. These are very good things. I think that Eric DeCosta right now is he's doing his job. He's doing his job. But again, guys, I really, really like what I see here from Emery Jones. I like what I saw from other film from Emery Jones as well. And I think that, you know, shoring up that guard spot is going to be super duper important, especially if the Ravens want to be able to establish a consistent running game, you know, because that's one of the reasons why they haven't been able to run the football. Derrick Henry only averaging 3 yards a carry because every time he gets the ball, not every time, but a lot of times when he gets the ball, there's already somebody in the backfield, right? Because guys aren't down blocking correctly. Guys are just completely whiffing blocks. We've seen guys do that on the interior multiple times, and not just Falele. We've seen Voorhees do it. We've seen Linderbaum do it a few times as well. Even though Linderbaum has been pretty good at run blocking in general. But yeah, we just got to get better. We got to get better on the offensive line and the defensive line. Kenyon Green is asked, I'll take my chances with Emery. Yeah, I don't know if I'll definitely take my chances with Emery as well. That's for sure. I don't think that they'll replace both guard spots. I think probably just one. But hopefully sooner rather than later. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But yeah, that is basically the good news. That's the very good news coming out of Ravens camp today. Emery Jones Jr., the Ravens' 3rd-round pick, is finally going to be able to start contributing. I think he has a 21-day practice window before he's eligible to be elevated to the 53-man roster officially. So we should be seeing him in a few weeks. And especially if he looks good in practice, I do expect him to play. 100%. I do expect him to play. And I expect guys like Daniel Falele, guys like Andrew Voorhees to have a much shorter leash. So this should honestly light a fire under their ass too, to start stepping it up and playing better. Because the competition is coming. Competition is coming, okay? All right. What else do we have to get into here on this episode of Quiet Storm Sports? Got through that and that. So Eric Kendricks, veteran linebacker Eric Kendricks, visited the Ravens yesterday, which was pretty big news. You know, I liked that, especially with Roquan Smith being out for the next couple of weeks. It would have been very, very beneficial and smart for the Ravens to bring in a veteran linebacker that they don't really have to coach up, that they can kind of just plug and play at that middle linebacker position, you know, at least until Roquan gets back. Because right now you're looking at strictly young guys, right? You're looking at Trenton Simpson being the most tenured guy at the linebacker position, and you know, Jake Hummel, but Jake Hummel's more of a special teams guy. Outside of that, you're looking at Teddy Buchanan. A lot of people are calling for Jay Higgins to be elevated, but there's just not a whole lot of seniority in that linebacker room. Not to mention Tyler Santucci, the inside linebackers coach. This is his first year coaching in the NFL. So you got young guys teaching young guys at the linebacking spot. Would have been nice to have an Eric Kendricks, but this morning, Tom Pelissero tweeted, and I quote, Eric Kendricks declined an offer to start out on Baltimore's practice squad, and he's headed home this morning. Offseason shoulder surgery kept him out, but he's in peak shape now and determined to keep playing. He has over 1,100 tackles over 10 years, including 138 tackles last season. Not to mention he had three forced fumbles last season as well, which was ranked, I want to say, 5th in the league for linebackers. So not too bad. Would have loved to have him in here, you know, but he didn't want to start on the practice squad. And that's kind of it's kind of telling, you know what I mean? Because I think it was kind of obvious that they wanted to probably put him on the practice squad, elevate him for game day, and then after they've done that a couple times, actually then elevate him or maybe just cut him. I don't know. And maybe Eric Kendricks was looking for more of a solid commitment from this Ravens team, and they weren't really just trying to offer that right now. So I think that's probably what ended up happening. No harm, no foul, but it is good, again, that Eric DeCosta is, again, doing his due diligence and going out and trying to find some Band-Aids for the multiple cuts, excuse me, that this Ravens team has right now. Kwame says he's trash too. Well, I mean, would he be better than Teddy Buchanan right here, right now, like today? Because if so, then I think it might have been worth a flyer. Just saying, guys. Just saying. All right, getting through it pretty quickly today. Getting through it pretty quickly on this episode of the show. Let me see, what else did I have? Oh yeah. So this was some more news that came out yesterday, actually. The Browns are benching Joe Flacco. They're benching Joe Flacco, and they're rotating Dylan Gabriel to be their starting quarterback this upcoming week. Now, what is really, really kind of not intriguing, but like just kind of nasty to me, is that after they made that move, they reshuffled their depth chart to put Joe Flacco as the backup. So Joe Flacco goes from being the starting quarterback, right? It goes from Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders, 1, 2, 3, to now Joe Flacco number 2, Dylan Gabriel number 1, and Shedeur Sanders still at 3. While you would think that Joe Flacco will be rotated down to the bottom of the depth chart, because obviously he's not working out. It's not like he's hurt or anything like that. He's just throwing really bad balls. He's 60-something years old, right? I know that's an exaggeration, but you guys get the point. And you just don't want him starting, right? What is he really going to do for you in the big 2025? 4 weeks into the season, Stefanski and friends, they realize that he's not doing anything for this team. So they're putting Dylan Gabriel, but they still don't want Shedeur Sanders to be up next. And that was just, again, very telling to me. And today he was asked about it during a media scrum after Browns practice, and it was hilarious what he had to say or not really say. Let's go ahead and take a listen, I guess.
Vocally, anything to say?
I guess one more. I guess what do you think you have to show to the coaches, just to have them have that belief in you that you can be ready?
What can you say?
How much has Joe been important to both you and Dylan in terms of your guys' like development to this point?
Y'all might as well.
So that was Shedeur Sanders, Brown's third string quarterback. Not saying anything. He was being asked questions about, how he feels about Flacco and Dylan Gabriel and the Browns and the offense and all that stuff. And, he was just kind of had a smile on his face, and he's just mouthing words. He's just mouthing words like a mime. You know what I mean? Like it was. Tila says, I didn't even hear nothing. Coney says, I can't even hear him. That's the point. He was just mouthing words. He didn't say anything. He was mouthing words and smiling, and that's something that I've never seen anybody do before. But I definitely 1000% think that it speaks to the frustration that Shedeur Sanders has with the Cleveland Browns right now. And it's for what I just talked about, man. I mean, like, you're third in line, right? One guy, the guy who's first in line, he gets his turn, right? Doesn't do anything with it. So instead of being sent back of the line behind you, right? So now you would be second. They put him at second and keep you third. I mean, it's just, it doesn't really get any more, I don't want to say like infuriating, you know what I mean? Just frustrating than that if you're Shedeur Sanders. And obviously he's frustrated. This is a guy who people today, Ravens fans even, are clowning Shedeur Sanders because it came out the other week that Shedeur Sanders did not want to get drafted to the Baltimore Ravens because he did not want to be a backup behind Lamar Jackson, which makes sense, right? Does that not make sense to anybody watching right now? We got 100 people watching live right now. Does that not make sense? Like I see you guys on Twitter talking about talking shit about Shedeur Sanders, saying that, oh yeah, this is what you get for not coming to the Ravens. You should be starting for the Ravens right now while Lamar Jackson's hurt. And it's like that wasn't the point of what he was saying. He did not want to go somewhere where he would be a long-term backup. In Baltimore, he's going to be a long-term backup. Yeah, if he was drafted to Baltimore, he might start this week, might start next week. But as soon as Lamar Jackson gets back, his job is automatically lost. It's not like he would be, competing to be the starter. That would never happen. I don't care if he played for the Ravens right now and he threw four touchdowns respectively against the Texans and the Rams. They would not start him week 8 when Lamar Jackson comes back. So, and he was a top 5 prospect at quarterback coming out of college. Of course, the league humbled him. He fell to the 5th round. The Browns got him after the Browns picked multiple people before him, including Dylan Gabriel. But he wanted to go somewhere where he would be in short order to start at some point, somewhere where there wasn't certainty at quarterback. And so for this to happen to him, I feel for him. Personally, I feel for him. I'm frustrated for him, because I don't think that he's done anything to deserve treatment like this. His current team telling people they ain't even want him. Yeah. Let me see what you guys are saying here in the chat. Tisha says, doesn't matter. These couple weeks could have been positive exposure for another team. I suppose that's true. But again, I think he wanted to go somewhere where they believed in him. And I think that's the frustrating thing, man. I mean, because as much as a guy like Shedeur Sanders believes in himself, as much as his support system around him, of course, we all know his father Dion, and his brothers and his friends and his peer group, his circle believes in him, right? He would want the franchise that drafted him to do the same thing. And it's clear and obvious right now that they have no belief in him, nor any respect. And all things that I've heard coming out of that camp is that he is a very, very hard worker at practice. He says he treats the practice reps he gets like game day. And that's all you would want to hear from a rookie quarterback, right? We haven't really seen, flashy stuff, disruptions on the sidelines, things that people would have thought that he might be doing. He's not doing any of that. He stayed silent. He's held it down. Every time I tune into a Browns game, he's on the sideline talking to Joe Flacco, things like that. But now for them to do this, when you thought that you were going to move up in line, but really you're staying in the exact same spot. So if Dylan Gabriel starts to shit the bed or if he gets hurt, we're just going to throw Flacco back in there. No need to see Shedeur. That's bullshit. That is bullshit. I don't like it. I don't like it at all, actually. Browns are a shitty organization anyway, just like their name suggests. Tila. Kwame B says, I promise you Gabriel will throw 4 picks. I think they play in London, I want to say, against the Vikings, I think. They play against the Vikings. Pretty good defense over there. Could be tough. Could be a tough one out for Gabriel. Honestly, I hope it is. With the way that the Browns are moving with Shedeur Sanders right now, I don't wish bad on anybody. And I definitely don't wish anybody to get hurt. But I hope the Vikings defense really gives it to Dylan Gabriel. I hope they terrorize him and he looks really bad. And then the national media shitstorm surrounding, hey, why isn't Shedeur Sanders getting looks? I hope it heats up. And maybe this is just me as a Ravens fan hoping that things for the Browns go bad. Right? But I'm just saying, man, I don't like how they're treating him. And I've never been the biggest Shedeur Sanders fan. Never. But I don't like how they're treating him at all. It's really fucked up to me. So, let me see. The Browns treating Gabriel the same way Harbaugh treats 77. We're going to see, man. Because, again, I mean, Dylan Gabriel, left-handed quarterback, kind of reminds me of Tua Tagovailoa. Kind of throwing him in, and he's not that big. He's kind of undersized, too. Throwing him into, week 5 of the NFL season. If you're a Browns fan, if you're in that front office, or if you're in the coaching staff of the Browns, I saw that kid play in preseason. Curb your expectations, buddy. Curb your freaking expectations. Just saying. So, but yeah, guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and leave it there for this episode of Quiet Storm Sports. A little quick one today, 40 minutes in and out. But listen. Before you leave, make sure you like the video, subscribe as well. However, tomorrow's episode is going to be really, really good. It's going to be really, really fun. We're going to get some good insight from our special guest who's coming on the show tomorrow. So make sure you stay locked into PRP for that. But until next time, my name is Sutton Def from the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. If you're just getting in here, make sure you hit that rewind button. I don't know what you guys are talking about in the chat, but I'm going to go ahead and get out of here because it's getting spooky. Again, guys, this has been Sutton Def from PRP. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.